The film begins inside an information technology company, where we see the department manager, Greg Till, deeply absorbed in his daydreams. He is drawing images of a beautiful place. He believes he is only living inside his imagination, but the drawings are extremely detailed, as if he can see them right in front of him as reality. Later, his daughter, Emily, calls him and invites him to her graduation party on the weekend. Greg hesitates a little because he already has other plans, but in the end, he agrees to attend. After the call, Greg returns again to his drawings. His habit of daydreaming at work causes many problems with his colleagues, to the point where he is forced to go to the office of the CEO, Bjorn, where he is immediately fired. Greg is shocked by the news, but he slowly returns to his daydreaming state again. Bjorn, worried about his distraction, approaches him to check on him, but at that moment Greg suddenly stands up, which startles Bjorn and makes him step back and hit his head on the edge of the desk. Greg then regains consciousness and sees the manager, but realizes he is not breathing. Afraid of being held responsible for Bjorn's death, he quickly looks for a way to escape the situation or hide the body. He hangs beyond sleeves on the window to make it look like he is standing, then covers his body with a curtain. After that, Greg leaves the office, claiming he is going to get food. Greg goes to a nearby bar and immediately orders a double whiskey to forget his worries. While waiting for his drink, he notices a woman looking at him strangely. She raises her hand several times, causing the sounds in the bar to slightly distort and ripple. When Greg pays attention to her, she approaches him and tells him that he is a real person. She then introduces herself as Isabella and invites him to sit with her. Confused, Greg sits with her and she points out Bjorn's body, visible from the office window. She offers to help him and says she feels responsible for everything that happened. In return, she asks him to retrieve a yellow amulet from her ex-lover, who, like Greg, is immune to her abilities. Greg, still waiting patiently, does not understand what she is talking about. She explains that he is different from most people, and that those they are seeing are not real. They are part of a simulation she created. Greg still has doubts, but he has no choice but to listen to her. In the bathroom, he finds her ex-lover, who appears to be drunk and holding the yellow amulet. Isabella claims the amulet contains special crystals that can control this fake world. Greg takes it easily and returns it to her. After completing the deal, Isabella promises to fix his problem. She takes his hand and closes his eyes. Suddenly, the sunlight outside becomes brighter, and Bjorn's body falls from the office window onto the pavement below. Shocking Greg, he quickly runs out of the bar to the scene, where his colleagues witnessed the event and believe the manager jumped from the window and died. Later, Isabella sends Greg a phone and directs him to a homeless community near a bridge, telling him to stay there until Bjorn's case is closed. Greg wants to go home, but he realizes he left his money, keys, and ID at the office. She also explains that he has been staying in a motel because he is recently divorced. Isabella encourages him to rebuild his life when he is safe at night. Greg mourns Bjorn, saying he was a good man who did not deserve to die. Isabella sympathizes with him, but insists that Bjorn is not a real person. To prove her point, she gives him a lighter and asks him to light some candles. Greg takes the lighter, and as he follows her instructions, he notices the candles lighting one after another in an unnatural way. This confirms her claim that the world is a simulation, and that they are the real people capable of controlling it. During dinner, Greg shows his drawings to Isabella, explaining that they look extremely real to him. All of them revolve around a woman holding a cigarette, who looks exactly like Isabella. After that, she revealed to him that his drawings actually represented their real lives outside this fake world the next day. Emily visited her brother Arthur and told him that she had asked their father to attend the graduation ceremony, but Arthur didn't want to deal with their father. He also explained that Greg was often an absent father who rarely showed up for his children. We returned to Greg, who spent the whole day with Isabella. She shared the yellow crystals with him, and they went to a local skating rink where they enjoyed skating and spent time together. They also used their telekinetic abilities to punish some inappropriate men. Greg seemed to no longer feel any guilt over Bjorn's death and began trusting Isabella more and more. Later, while they were heading to a fast food restaurant, Isabella noticed a suspicious van that had stopped in front of them. The man inside was looking for women in exchange for money. She spoke to him while Greg went inside the restaurant to get food. When he realized he didn't have enough money, he looked outside and was shocked to see Isabella getting into the van and driving away. Greg apologized at the restaurant without realizing that his son, Arthur, was sitting right next to him. Hours passed and Greg kept waiting for Isabella outside, until the cashier eventually gave him a bag of food. Finally, Isabella arrived, and he shared the food with her without asking any questions. At night, Isabella left Greg on the street and went to a suspicious apartment, where she met her ex-lover Kendall, and asked him to return her amulet with the yellow crystals. At the same time, Emily met her father and asked him to come with her. But Greg told her he was waiting for a friend who would arrive soon. He promised her he would attend her graduation ceremony, however. Emily revealed that the ceremony had already taken place. 2 weeks earlier, seeing his confusion, she left her phone number on the back of her graduation photo. Moments later, Isabella returned. She had seen Greg and his daughter together, and told him to forget Emily because she wasn't a real person. This angered Greg, and they had a heated argument. At that moment, a suspicious van pulled up next to them. The man inside was holding a gun and demanding money. Greg became furious, took some of the yellow crystals from Isabella's amulet, and used his telekinetic powers to destroy the van. However, the effort exhausted him and he fainted. The scene shifted to the next morning, where Greg woke up inside Isabella's tent, but she was gone. He noticed his drawings hanging nearby, so he quickly gathered them and went out for a walk. He arrived at a public phone booth and called Emily, using the number she had left on her photo, but no one answered, so he left her a voicemail. When he returned to the tent, Isabella confronted him angrily for leaving her. It was also revealed that all the yellow crystals had been stolen. While they were unconscious, when she realized Greg had taken his drawings, she accused him of planning to abandon her, and her suspicion grew when she found Emily's photo in his pocket. She then insisted again that this world was not real and that he was still trapped in an illusion. To prove it, she pulled out a tube containing blue crystals and said they were specially designed to pull them out of this fake world and return them to the real one. They needed 10 crystals each, but they were missing 4. Isabella became desperate. Feeling that Greg was starting to cling to reality, she placed the crystals into a device and asked Greg to inhale them through his nose. He hesitated, but he had no other choice but to comply. He then lay down connected to a machine called the brain box, while Isabella did the same in a similar position beside him. A technician was monitoring the device and called Isabella Dr. Clemens, asking if everything was okay. She replied that Greg had become attached to a fictional person inside the simulation, so she had decided to remove him from it. The technician then approached Greg and called him Dr. Whittle, disconnecting him from the brain box. After that, they both got up. And Greg was shocked to find himself inside a massive, highly advanced facility. 2 scientists approached them and asked if their program was experiencing any issues, but Isabella assured them that everything was running normally. After that, they went to the city, and Greg wondered why he couldn't remember this world. Isabella explained that this was a common side effect caused by his long exposure inside the brain box. She then showed him a place by the sea, a peaceful view that looked exactly like the one in his drawings. At that moment, Greg began to believe that this was his real home in the real world. Greg asked if the world had always been this perfect. Isabella replied that it used to be filled with pollution and poverty. But everything changed after the discovery of automation, synthetic biology, and asteroid mining. To help him understand, she brought out a device called the Thought Visual Laser, which Greg apparently invented himself. It converts spoken language into animated visuals. Through it, Isabella explained how synthetic biology solved environmental problems, and how asteroid mining restored the economy. People shared their wealth equally, and automated robots took over all boring tasks. This gave humans time and freedom to pursue their passions, until they eventually became useless in a practical sense. Over time, people became so used to this amazing world that they stopped appreciating its beauty. Because of this, Isabella created the brain box to remind people what the world would feel like if they lost awareness of it. At night, they attended a party with famous scientists and artists. They met the well-known scientist, Dr. New York, who praised Greg's this Weezer device. Dr. New York then approached Greg privately to talk, expressing concern about the Brainbox project. Isabella noticed their conversation and asked Greg what they were discussing, clearly aware that people were suspicious of her project, which made her angry without anyone noticing at that moment. Emily's apparition entered the party, searching for her father during that week. Isabella had publicly presented her project at a major event and called Greg onto the stage. She explained to the audience that he had been asked questions before entering the brain box, and that he would be asked the same questions again, with his previous answers influencing his responses. She then asked him several questions, and his answers were noticeably different, completely changing his perception of the world. What once seemed dull and depressing now felt meaningful and beautiful. The presentation was a huge success, and Isabella attracted a lot of attention, however. Amid the crowd of admirers, Greg was drawn outside by Emily's apparition. As he followed her, the clean, perfect environment suddenly began to break down, turning into graffiti and trash. Emily finally spoke to him, telling him she was his daughter and that he still wasn't thinking clearly. She explained that she had found him in a homeless camp, holding strange yellow crystals, and she returned them to him. She revealed that he had to choose between two worlds: the perfect world or the broken world where his children live. Suddenly, Greg heard Isabella screaming for help and rushed downstairs, where he found the party in chaos. He took a yellow crystal and used his abilities to push the crowd away from Isabella, then pulled her out of the event. At that moment, the fake world inside the brain box began merging with their perceived reality. In a disturbing way, Greg asked what was happening, and Isabella explained that exiting the brain box with an insufficient number of blue crystals could cause this distortion. They now needed to return to the simulation and collect the correct amount of blue crystals. Moments later, they returned to the lab, placed themselves back into the machine, and woke up again in the homeless camp inside the simulation. They then went to Kendall's building, as he was the only one who could produce blue crystals. When they arrived, Isabella grabbed a nearby gun and forced Kendall to hand over as many blue crystals as possible. Isabella became unstable, and when Kendall reached into his pocket, she shot him. She then took the bag of blue crystals from his back pocket and returned to the camp with Greg. Unfortunately, the gunshot alerted the police, who stormed the building. Isabella and Greg ran to the rooftop and escaped down the emergency stairs. They stole a car and headed back toward the camp. But things got worse when they realized they still didn't have enough blue crystals. The police also tracked them down, forcing them to hide since there weren't enough crystals. Only one person could wake up in the real world, while the other would remain trapped in the simulation. Greg suggested that he should sacrifice himself so the other could wake up automatically. But Isabella wasn't sure that would actually work. She broke down in tears, feeling guilty for creating the fake world they had become trapped in. Greg reminded her of all the beautiful moments they had shared. Inside the simulation, in the end, he decided to stay in the simulated world and asked her to return to the real world as quickly as possible. Isabella was devastated but had no choice but to accept his decision. After they said goodbye, she surrendered to the police, allowing Greg to escape when Isabella was arrested. She used the device to wake up in the real world. Greg, however, remained trapped in the simulation forever. He was taken to a psychiatric facility and joined a support group, where he spoke about his family and life. After some time, he met his daughter Emily again, who was very happy to see him. And that is how the story ends. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to the channel.